where we have found ourselves is that white people are the only ones who are genuinely operating at scale with the mindset of America first. And that's the pattern of the last 60 years. Consistently, over and over and over again, in every civil institution, in every facet of society, white people have said, this isn't the best for whites, but I see how it is good for blacks. And I see how it is good for Hispanics and Indians and Jews. So, okay, we'll do it. We'll compromise. All of us are Americans. And so even if it's not the best for whites, talk about affirmative action, talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, talk about immigration. These things obviously aren't the best for whites, but if we're just trying to think of everybody in the country and treat everybody as equally owed opportunity, even when those come at the cost of our own opportunity, our own majority, our own culture, fine, we'll go ahead and go through with it. We were genuinely operating with an America First point of view for our entire lives, our parents' entire lives, and most of your grandparents' entire lives, okay? The unfortunate reality is that nobody else was. Everybody else was not operating from an America First point of view. Blacks were operating from a what is best for the black community point of view. Jews, obviously, operating from a not just what's best for Jews in America, but what is best for Jews worldwide, because obviously of their diasporic nature, that is how they have been taught to think for thousands of years.
The destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
And so now to get into the next subject that is even more celebratory, in my opinion, putting a stamp on free speech, that we shouldn't have to talk about that as a celebration or a big milestone, but hey, this day and age we do. But more importantly, Nick has always talked about the America First movement as a political movement. And over the last 10 years, he has accumulated this following of millions of individuals, mostly young white Christian males. And every single night of the last 10 years, he has asked, how can I help? How can I contribute? Obviously, we can all go about trying to get this information out there. You can start your own Instagram, YouTube, X account and talk about these things. You can try to red pill your family, your church groups, whatever. Participating in the information war has been pretty much the prescription that is most commonly available for the masses. But there has been several attempts to make this a bit more formal in terms of hierarchical organization. And the America First Foundation, founded and created by Nick, was created several years ago in order to organize Nick's annual America First conference. It's a 501c3 charity organization or nonprofit organization. So those funds were received through donations to the website. They use those funds to do these annual conferences, invite on guests, and have an open discussion about white identity, Christian nationalism, the Jewish problem, all of the priorities of America First. That was really the entire scope of the America First Foundation for the last several years. But the big news here is that in 2026, so in a mere month and a half, Nick is expanding the scope of what the America First Foundation is going to be pursuing. And some of the deliverables or some of the projects that America First Foundation is going to be unlocking for everyone who cares about these priorities. This actually goes back to a conversation I broke down pretty thoroughly last month about Arvil and Nick Fuentes and their beef, and Arvil's suggestion that there needs to be an institution of learning for the young white people of America to come back to their roots, to acknowledge their group identity and group interests, to better understand the political mechanisms and to better understand how basically society works, and also give us a historical context of the European people as well. And he said this should really be something like around high school age, pre-college age. We get America First minded young individuals into this formal education so that they are equipped as they go out into their professional careers, whether they're pursuing politics or entrepreneurial endeavors, whatever it may be, to do those things with a constant priority of how can I do those things politically or otherwise in a way that is advantageous for whites in America. Well, Nick, in my opinion, was already doing that for the last 10 years. He was delivering the education curriculum. It was simply not a formal institution. It wasn't textbooks and a Common Core curriculum. It was extemporaneously speaking for 2 hours at a time, 5 nights a week for 10 years. The body of knowledge and education that Nick has provided on America First, while it isn't a formal institution, as I said, Nick has already provided that, and in spades. And that is why he has become as influential as he has. But taking that to the next level, making it a bit more formal and polishing up the production value is the next stage of America First in terms of the different types of projects that they are going to be taking on in 2026. And this is going to include things like easy info tables, diagrams, mappings of some of these lobbyist groups. So when you have special interest groups, that's a broad category, and it can mean a lot of different things. Obviously, the one on the forefront of everybody's mind is the Jewish lobby, AIPAC, etc. But special interest groups have a role in politics that is far beyond this one nation lobbying Congress members, collecting blackmail, giving them financial donations so that they get a quid pro quo arrangement for pro-Israel policy. Foreign lobbying is only one special interest group that we should all be educated and articulate and aware is a high influence when it comes to our elected representatives. But just as influential as AIPAC and the Jewish lobby are, or any other international lobbying efforts are, domestically we also have, let's just go through a few examples, big tech lobbying our politicians to pass legislation that, for example, if you're unhappy with mass immigration, H-1B visas, tanking the wages in this country, making it difficult for white males to get jobs, that's policy that is guided and persuaded by big tech and big agriculture. Big agriculture wants low-cost, low-skilled labor to be carpenters, to be electricians, to be picking the grapes and the fields, so on and so forth. Well, big tech wants similarly low-cost labor to be their AI developers, software developers, and so on and so forth. And so that's not foreign lobbying. That's an entirely different thing. And oftentimes they are Jewish, sometimes they aren't. In the case of Larry Ellison, obviously it is. In the case of Mark Zuckerberg, obviously it is. In the case of Google and YouTube, obviously it is. But in the case of Twitter, for example, owned by Elon Musk, it's not. But Twitter still absolutely wants low-cost, high-skilled, allegedly high-skilled, foreign labor to come in and protect some of the profit margin via low-cost labor. And this is true across the entire technological industry. And when it comes to Wall Street and their lobbying, obviously they want corporate tax cuts. And then when it comes to Big Pharma, they want less regulations on the goods and services that they provide, less scrutiny over their clinical trials, less restrictions on what they can put in the drugs. You're going to have stuff like Big Oil, who obviously want less environmental policies so that they have a bit more leeway with how they go about extracting resources. And they obviously want to advocate for grants received from your tax dollars to go and build new oil rigs or windmills or solar panels or whatever else it may be, green policies, etc. So as I said, it's big oil, it's big agriculture, it's big pharma. It is also the military-industrial complex. And some of them are honestly agnostic when it comes to which war we go and fight. It's not always Israel in the Middle East and advancing the growing, expanding Greater Israel agenda. That's obviously been ongoing for the last 60, 80 years. A lot of our wars, most of them, have been driven by the Greater Israel agenda. But also there are plenty of other examples of wars where America obviously benefits from the weapons that are sold or traded with other nations or that we use ourselves. The military-industrial complex as it stands is yet another very powerful lobbying group. Sometimes it is tied to Israel, sometimes it's not. And so all of these lobbying special interest groups, they need to be mapped out. Who sits at the head of each of these? Whether it's Procter & Gamble, okay, who runs that? Who runs those media conglomerates? Who runs Raytheon, Lockheed Martin? Who runs JP Morgan? So, we have to actually do a little bit of boring and tedious homework to map out, okay, these are the different clusters of special interest groups. These are the people who run them. Part 3 is, what do the people who run them care about? Are they purely profit driven, or are they religiously motivated? Do they have an allegiance to another nation? Do they have some kind of ethnic grievance that they're trying to install equity in our country about? And so knowing the political priorities or the religious priorities of the leaders of each of the lobbies and what level of influence they have, how big is their war chest? How many Congress members have they kicked envelopes over to? That's a very tedious exercise that nobody really wants to do, but needs to be done. It needs to be documented. It needs to be centralized. It needs to be publicly available. It needs to be available for free. And so who is going to go do all that work and put it out there for free? There's Open Secrets, and there's Track APAC, and there's other places that have piecemeal bits of information, but they really require you. It's basically just open source data that doesn't come to patterns or conclusions. You just jump in and try to figure out filtering based on name, filtering based on political party, filtering based on industry. That stuff has to be summarized, and the patterns or the constellation has to be drawn to make it more obvious and understandable to the layman who doesn't want to spend 12 hours doing data analytics and background checks on each of these individuals. And so info tables, as I said, simple to understand resources, mapping out the special interest groups, and doing deep dives on each individual one. This is, as I said, a very time-intensive exercise. It's going to take people who are skilled in these different ways. It's going to require software developers, data visualization experts, people who are very familiar with politics and lobbying. Those people usually don't want to work for free. And so the funds that the America First Foundation collects are going to help actually afford for paid employees. And this is great because this is starting to build that parallel economy of like-minded people who are aiming at the same North Star for this country: American sovereignty, white majority, Christian morals. We're going to start creating jobs for those people. And at the same time, we're going to get the information out to the masses. And so this is a very, very ambitious project. And so the opportunity, honestly, the sky is the limit. As I said, we're talking about careers for people. We're talking about bringing critical information for the first time in an easily digestible way to the masses. It's all about, in 2 words, political consciousness. Because right now, as children are funneled through public school and higher education, there are so many distractions that they would like to just say politics is for old people and wealthy people, people who are, I don't know, more politically minded. I'd like to opt out of that. And you know what? In my entire childhood, I remember there was a certain phrase that was prescribed in order to keep the peace in society. And it was always politics and religion. That's what you don't discuss. Keep that stuff at home. If you're talking with friends, if you're talking at work, if you're doing anything public, politics and religion are off the table. All right. Well, that's exactly how we got to this situation that we're in. The apostasy of the Church of America and a political system that is controlled by money and blackmail. That's because the average population, the proletariat, the goyim, they all said, yeah, politics and religion, I know people get really sensitive about that stuff, so let's just table that conversation and let's talk about football and Taylor Swift instead. That is precisely how we got here. And so what Nick is doing is saying, hey, young people of America, I know you're upset for a litany of reasons. You're being replaced by foreigners in the city that you grew up. It's unaffordable to even get an apartment, much less buy a home. You go out into the dating world and everybody has 12, 24, 36 previous sexual partners. Everybody's covered in tattoos. Nobody is traditional anymore. Women are aborting their children like they're popping Skittles. Okay? This is not the culture that young conservative Christian individuals, in particular white individuals, want. But it's not going to change simply by entrusting the principalities to change it for us. The change is going to have to come from us. And so we actually do have to drive political consciousness, and we have to basically make politics cool and interesting and meaningful to the young people of this country. which does mean being provocative, being entertaining, maybe saying some things that are a little uncouth. That is part of the delivery, and that's actually part of the success formula for how Nick accumulated the influence that he does. Everybody is always, and by everybody I'm referring to the boomers and the tone policing wife guys and the feminist women, they're always wagging their fingers saying, you know, Nick could be more successful. He could be more influential if he would just tone down on the rhetoric, stop making those racist jokes, stop making the anti-Semitic remarks, stop degrading women, blah, 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 blah. They don't get it. They don't get what's necessary to bring the young people in, because young people, by their very nature, are transgressive. They are questioning. They are still learning. They don't have decades and decades of political correctness propaganda installed in them yet. And so when you reach them early and say, actually, you're allowed to say whatever you want. You want to use some certain racial slurs as a joke? Guess what? You're not going to hell for that. Guess what? That doesn't mean you're an ignorant person. Guess what? That doesn't mean that there isn't a real problem amongst the races and our ability to live in peaceful harmony. Using a racial slur during that conversation doesn't undermine the delivery or the importance of that conversation. And saying some anti-Semitic trope doesn't invalidate the reality that Jewish people are an identifiable group as an ethnicity, as a religion, as a nation, and they operate collectively. Black people operate collectively. The way they vote is based on what is best for black people. The way Asians vote and the way Hispanic people vote and the way Jews vote, the way they engage politics, it is all in the interest of their group. It is not purely based on the individual. There is a consciousness amongst all non-white people of their group identity, and the way they see the world and engage with it is at a minimum partially, oftentimes majorly driven by their allegiance to their group, ethnically, oftentimes also religiously. And so for white people to have the consciousness and say, okay, everybody else is playing a team sport. We are the only ones who have abrogated our own identity to make sure that everybody else can advance theirs. What's going on, you guys? It is yours truly, Joshua, founder of Beholden To Truth. Just wanted to say, if you'd like to help out the platform, go to beholdentotruth.com. You can get yourself something from the merch line, some of these anti-Zog occupation sleeveless t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, joggers, sweat shorts, whatever you may need for whatever season you are in. We got them at beholdentotruth.com. It goes a long way in supporting the platform and waking people up. I've had several people come up to me at the gas station, at the gym, at the grocery store. Hey man, I like that shirt. You know what that means. And it kicks off a conversation. We're swapping Instagrams. This is how you meet people who know what's going on, who probably share much of the same worldview that you do. It's an open invitation for everybody to just step right in. So I appreciate you guys' support. Head to beholdentotruth.com and get your own. I really want people to think about this. For the last 60 years, right? White people have said, you know what? We aren't a collective. There is no such thing, some people even say, as the white race, whatever that's supposed to mean. And so if there's no such thing as the white race, then what is this conversation about protecting the white race? How can you protect something that doesn't exist? Where we have found ourselves is that white people are the only ones who are genuinely operating at scale with the mindset of America first. And that's the pattern of the last 60 years. Consistently, over and over and over again, in every civil institution, in every facet of society, white people have said, this isn't the best for whites, but I see how it is good for blacks. And I see how it is good for Hispanics and Indians and Jews. So, okay, we'll do it. We'll compromise. All of us are Americans, and so even if it's not the best for whites, talk about affirmative action, talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, talk about immigration. These things obviously aren't the best for whites, but if we're just trying to think of everybody in the country and treat everybody as equally owed opportunity, even when those come at the cost of our own opportunity, our own majority, our own culture, fine, we'll go ahead and go through with it. We were genuinely operating with an America First point of view for our entire lives, our parents' entire lives, and most of your grandparents' entire lives, okay? The unfortunate reality is that nobody else was. Everybody else was not operating from an America first point of view. Blacks were operating from a what is best for the black community point of view. Jews, obviously, operating from a not just what's best for Jews in America, but what is best for Jews worldwide, because obviously of their diasporic nature, that is how they have been taught to think for thousands of years. And Hispanics in the country likewise have said, well, what is best for bringing more of my Hispanic brothers and sisters into this country? What is best for proliferating the Spanish language? What is best for proliferating Mexican culture in America? Who are going to give me more social benefits? The Democrat Party, the Republicans. Oh, what do you know? It's the Democrat Party every single year, and that's why the Democrat Party, year over year, election cycle over election cycle, decade over decade, gets the majority of the minority vote. It's always been this way because they pander to those minorities. Those minorities are not thinking about what is best for America. They don't have an America first point of view. They have a my tribe first point of view. It is only whites who have operated from America first for the last, as I said, 1, 2, 3 lifetimes. And now we are at the reckoning point. Now we are at the point of white consciousness or white sentience saying, I think we've done enough. Okay? Call us racist if you'd like. Call us bigots, xenophobic, whatever, racist. I don't care. At this point, we have bled ourselves dry for you, and you're still calling us racist. So I don't know what else to do for you. We've already let all of your brothers and sisters of multiple generations into this country, such to the extent that America is now a 20% Hispanic nation. Okay? We have allowed Chinese students to come into our colleges, taking exclusive seats in our Ivy League schools that should be going to heritage Americans and benefiting the Chinese individuals, and whether or not they're going back to China with that education or they're staying here and going into some of the best positions in our country. The same with Indians. All of these things are good for your people and your tribe, and that's why you're doing them, and you don't really care about the demographic of America. You don't really care about the economy of America. So long as it enriches you, all of these various non-white groups have been self-interested at an individual level saying, hey, I can come to America, get free healthcare, free food, free housing, free temporary aid for needy families, go down the list. And if it's not gimmies, it's, hey, I can come here and I don't have to change. I don't have to assimilate. I can come here and practice my foreign religion. I can come here and keep speaking my language. I can come here and do train migration where once I get here, I bring my cousin, I bring my parents. I have a child now. They have permanent citizenship. I am going to do nothing in terms of protecting the historic identity of America. I am here to enrich myself, install my culture, and that's it. Whereas white people for our entire lives have been saying, how can we make things better for everyone else? We're tired of that. We are now looking out for ourselves. In the same way that all of these other groups have been looking out for themselves, we now have to look out for ourselves. And so that's where I think there is going to be a difficult balance, because I'm speaking about the America First Foundation, which is an open invitation to people of all ethnic groups, even all religions, so long as there is a common agreement that America must protect its white majority, America must be a majority Christian nation still, and obviously America must be a sovereign nation. If you care about those things, but you're not a white individual, you're not a Christian, then you're invited into the America First platform, invited to participate in the America First Foundation advancing these causes. I think that's all good and well, but I would add just some precaution, some realism to this situation to say that if you think the America First Foundation is going to become some kind of Coca-Cola commercial that says, hey, black, white, Asian, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, pagan, let's all just hold hands and get back our sovereignty, I don't think that's realistic based on the pattern of behavior of all of the non-white people for all of our entire lives. I think the majority of the people who are going to invest themselves, their time, their resources, their donations, their influence to America First are obviously going to be white, Christian, and mostly men. There might be some individuals, some Mexicans who say, even though I'm Mexican, I don't want America to look like Mexico. And I'm perfectly happy speaking English, and I don't think we should impose Spanish in our classrooms and slow everybody down, having to wait for them to catch up in terms of the progression in our classrooms. I don't think every time you call a business, you should have to listen to this Spanish voice interaction system. You know what? English is the law of the land. If you can't figure it out, then this isn't the country for you. So there are going to be a small number of non-white people who contribute to America First, but I'm just setting some realistic expectations, in my opinion. As I said, this is not going to be a rainbow coalition. It's largely going to be on the back of white people who are now sentient of our self-interest, who are trying to protect the historic identity of this country, and who are willing to put their resources, whether that's time or donations or influence, whatever else, behind the success of America First. I think we're going to see people coming in droves. And by people, I mean white Christian men coming in droves to help America First and this foundation that is going to be expanding in 2026 succeed. So I am really, really excited about this, because this is the formal institution that Arvil talked about, that Nick has built informally over the last 10 years. And whether or not this materializes in the form of a full-on third independent party called America First in America, maybe that's what happens, or maybe a constituency within the Republican Party who are self-identifying as America First. They are the table turners when it comes to needing a certain amount of votes in Congress to pass certain legislation. As we just saw with the Epstein files, you don't have to convert the entire Republican Party to being America First in order to sway a vote. So just getting a coalition, at a minimum, 5 Congress members, maybe 10, maybe 20 over several years, who are America First. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a political platform. It's more of a splinter cell in conservative America that says, you can call me a Republican if you want. You call me a conservative if you want. I see myself as America First. And what that means is the priorities I articulated 7 million times so far. America must be a sovereign country. We have to be majority white, led by white people, and this has to be a Christian nation. So I think over time, give it some time. It's going to be a little while, but throughout 2026, the applications are going to come in. What is really going to accelerate things is if some donations come in, because as I mentioned before, the work that needs to be done for all this, documentaries needing to be produced, collaborations needing to be networked, ads needing to be run, political donations received so that you can host conferences. This stuff has to be financed. Every political movement has to be financed. And so there's going to need to be somebody doing monetization strategy for America First and the foundation. I don't know how Nick is going to manage all this. I hope that he is able to find the talent that he needs. He said he's going to be opening up applications for the foundation in early 26. So if you're interested in getting directly involved, whether that's through simply giving your donations, volunteer support, or potentially, when they have the financial means to do so, bringing on employees with the background professionally to do this work, social media management, marketing. They're going to need lawyers. I think they're going to need management. There's going to be a lot of need in the America First Foundation as it scales. So this is super duper exciting. Things are evolving. We all wish things could go faster, but political movements do take time. They take capital. They take risk. And those things don't just happen within a 12-month period. This has been a very gradually snowballing movement for 10 years now. So all of that being said, you guys, I think I'll wrap things up. Maybe you noticed this gorgeous t-shirt here. We got the Roman color scheme Save Europa t-shirt, looking absolutely aesthetic. Got a couple other things in the car that came in the mail. Check this out. I've been waiting for these for a while. We got the anti-zog occupation joggers. That is embroidery, by the way. That's not printed on. That is luxury right there. Does take a few extra dollars to produce and takes a couple of extra days to get shipped to you. But I'm looking forward to sporting these now that it's gotten cold. I bought them in 2 different colorways. I got the light heather gray and we got the black. Imagine pairing this with either the black or the white embroidered anti-zog hoodie, that's the luxury line, okay? The luxury line is the premium embroidered products because they're obviously longer lasting. They just feel super duper quality. But the price is a little higher for those. So on the website, beholdenTotruth.com, we have the embroidered premium hoodie, but we also have the traditional screen printed hoodie. I think the traditional one's $50. If you want to help out the platform a little extra and get yourself a little bit of an upgrade in quality, you get the embroidered versions, kind of like collector's edition. I have the white one coming, and it does actually come with a couple extra graphics too. So you're getting a slightly different, improved design, but most importantly, a higher quality product with the embroidered graphics. And also in the car, check this out, got our nice anti-zog occupation coffee mug. Oh man, that pre-workout hits. This is a 15 ouncer, very solid size. You know, you can do a double in your coffee, or in my case, your pre-workout in here. Blue raspberry, absolutely delicious. So we got the anti-zog mug on the website, as well as a stainless steel thermos that's still coming in the mail. I'm looking forward to that one. This is more of like hanging out at the studio at home recording. I want the stainless steel one to keep the drinks warm or cold in the car. So you'll be seeing that one on the vlog here in the next few days. And when I receive the embroidered white hoodie, you'll absolutely be seeing that. I mean, that one is a piece of art. I'm serious. I don't know why I'm so excited about the fact that it's embroidered, but you guys know it is a nicer product to have the graphics embroidered on rather than just screen printed on. So that's how you can support the platform. BeholdenToTruth.com. Go get yourself some of the either anti-zog merch or the Save Europa merch. I'm sweating over here, man. It's hot in this car. It's not supposed to be hot. It's November 20th. Okay, we're a week away from Thanksgiving, and it's like 70 degrees outside. We got this little heat wave going on, and it's humid. Anyway, I got to get in here and do my back day. So until next time, you guys, I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves. America first, and Christ is King.
The few brave men who have actually tried to go out and do something about white genocide or talk about Jewish influence, the Zionist-occupied government, we all know that they get crucified, their careers get destroyed, and so we need to find ways to support each other. One of the ways that I have done that is by creating my Substack, where there are exclusive early access to documentaries, my weekly vlogs, there are ebooks there. There's even an opportunity to set up a one-on-one 30-minute Ask Me Anything if you'd like. All of the proceeds from my Substack, from my YouTube channel, from the merch gets reinvested in the platform. I use that to pay my employees. I use that to buy the equipment that I need, the cameras, the lights, the MacBook, all the books, all of the software, pay for marketing, everything else, but also it protects my literal life. So if you want to help out, please do head on to Substack, get yourself a subscription. Thank you. I appreciate it. America first, and Christ is King.